Hey everybody, this is S. Anthony Thomas. This is the S. Anthony Thomas Show, and as I promised, this is the beginning of a string of interviews / chats with people I find funny and interesting, and people I know you are going to find funny and interesting. And it starts off with comedian, actor, voiceover artist Bobby Z. So, are you ready? Of course you are. Let's do it. All right, everybody, I'm here with an old friend of mine. Yes, we are both that old, a little grayer, hopefully a lot wiser. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to my friend, Mr. Bobby Z.
Hello, hello. I was thinking about this, how long we've known each other, and it's got to be close to 20 years.
Yeah. Well, what year did you start doing comedy?
Oh, well, I started doing comedy in June of 1983.
Sweet God.
Was
Okay. I got
right
bad
after
news
I
for
got out
you.
of high school.
I got bad news for you. If you started in 1983 and
Mhm.
I started in 1986, that means we've known each other probably for close to 30 years.
Well, now, see, what happened is I started 83, but by 87, I moved to LA. And
Mm-hmm.
I was in South Jersey in 83, and then I went to college. I was up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, of all places. And I did some comedy there. Then I went to LA in 87, and I was there until 92. Moved to New York to 99, moved down to South Jersey again, 99, and then started up again because I had taken a break because we were moving and I don't know, I had a baby and I moved down here. And then my wife says, you should do comedy again. I'm like, okay. I think she thought I would go back and do it for like a couple months and then be done. And that didn't happen.
They all think we're going to do it for a couple of months. They all think that.
It's true. And it's like, I remember one time we were at a show and my sister's husband, my brother-in-law was there, and he goes, Bobby says you're really supportive. She goes, I just thought he would just do it for a little while. I didn't know he just would keep going.
It's amazing. The funny thing is, nobody, when we were both doing it back then, in that time period, people really didn't know comedians.
Right.
We were around, but they didn't know us. And if you talk to people, they didn't know anybody who did comedy. So when you told people you did comedy, they looked at you like you had a horn in the middle of your head and you were a unicorn.
Well, yeah. And then most people say the same thing. Well, then do you know, Johnny Carson or whatever? But yeah, we all go to the same bar. We all know each other.
We all live in the same basement. And we take turns coming outside to speak to normal people.
That or tell me a joke. And it's like,
That used to drive me nuts. It still does drive me nuts.
Oh, yeah. Say something funny. Like, yeah, okay. So, like, my brother-in-law, the first time I met him, he goes, comedian, huh? Tell me something funny. I'm like, all right, your sister likes to hump like a jackrabbit. And he's like, hey! I said, well, that is funny, because she doesn't. So... he stopped asking me after that. As a matter of fact, he came to a show and I did that line, and then afterwards he goes, I don't like that you say things. I stood up.
Yeah, it's like, dude, it's amazing. They don't. It's like, listen, you have to understand, we're machines, and real life is the meat that comes through it.
Well, I mean, for a while, and I did Ozzy Osbourne impression. I just did this Ozzy character. So I dressed as Ozzy, and I would just go. And it started because my wife got me hooked into doing fundraisers, but like the neighbors were there. I'm like, I don't want the neighbors. Like, you're crossing the streams here, So my parents got invited to come, and I'm like, my parents? Shit. I think my father saw me do comedy 3 times in 30-something years.
Mm-hmm.
So the first time they came, I said to my mom, she goes, are you going to be nervous that we're there? I said, no, I'm going to get Ozzy to do it. And she goes, oh, do you think you can get him? Like, oh my God.
So they only came to see you. Said your father only came to see you 3 times.
Yeah,
Now, did you see that movie Punchline?
I lived it. Yeah.
Oh God, the part where Tom Hanks is on stage and his dad comes in and he freaks out.
Hmm. So here's the funny thing. You remember Jeff Ferrani? God bless him.
Yes.
May he rest in peace. So the first time my father's coming to see me, Karami is there. It's a fundraiser, and Karami is going to open the show for me to introduce me so that I can then see the rest of the show, right? So he's doing me a favor. He's just going to come do a few minutes and do that. So before the show, I introduced him to my father. So I walk away for a few minutes because I talked about Jeff and my dad, wanted to meet him. So Jeff says to my father, he goes, "Oh, your son, he's a good kid. He, when he hires comics, he takes care of them. He doesn't, he's good like that, blah, blah, blah." And my father goes, "Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree." And Jeff goes, "Oh, I thought he was adopted."
It's just, let me ask you this. I'm curious. I'm curious because everybody has a different reason or a different story for why they picked up the microphone the first time. I mean, it takes a lot to get up on that stage and pick up the microphone. Obviously, I know from personal experience, but what made you do it? I mean,
Well, see, I used to, people used to ask if I was the class clown, but I was not the class clown because I went to Catholic school, so I knew you only had a small margin of error to do that. So I used to call myself the special guest star, and my goal wasn't to make kids laugh, because making kids laugh is easy, right? But if I could get the teacher to laugh, then I could go, right? So I started doing that, and then of course I don't know, I just thought I should be entertaining people. But I think I started entertaining people to break the silence or to break the uncomfortableness, whether it was in school, because occasionally, like, it would get really tense for something, and I would just do something to make the whole room laugh, just to like break the tension. And my father was kind of strict, and so I would do things. But he saw that I wanted to do it, so he would get mad that me starting actors and all that kind of crap. But so sometimes I would do my jokes, but then he would say, so then I would say, "Oh, no, that wasn't my joke. That was from Saturday Night Live." Oh, that was pretty funny. But he didn't watch Saturday Night
Live. It's funny how every comic I've had on the show, when how we talk sometimes before the recording starts or before the show starts, and they all tell me the same story about, and singers are the same way. Any kind of entertainer, where no matter you could be just destroying the place and having jokes that get standing ovations and applause breaks, and you will tell a relative or your girlfriend or your wife, and they will look at you like you're reading the phone book, because they don't they can't separate that thing from you, or they separate that thing.
Well,
from
right. You. So my father. So at one point, I was doing, and he kind of understood that I could still have a day job that was doing well, and I could still do comedy. And it was like I wasn't going to starve or any of those things. He felt a little bit better about it then. So then I said I wanted to do this one-man show about his father, because my father's father came from Italy on the boat, was a chef up in Boston, and had just great speech patterns and all these things. And my father was a genius. He was like one of these kids that they were gonna move him ahead in school and everything. And my grandmother was like, "I don't know, he's kind of small. I don't think we should do that." So, he went to MIT. I can't even spell MIT. And then he got an MBA in a year because he got drafted and all. And so he's super smart, but so uptight about things. So anyway, I said I was going to do this thing about my grandfather, and he goes, "Over my dead body." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And he looked at me and he goes, "No, literally, you have to wait till I'm dead before you do something like that." And I was like, "Oh, okay. What? Well, how long is that going to be?" So, and he just passed away like 18 months ago.
Too
but
bad.
A year, but well, no. He almost made it to 91, so that's pretty good. But a year before he died, we gave him last rites in the hospital. And we all were there, and that was it. And he was saying goodbye, and we were playing Sinatra in the four shared room. The poor guy next to us was like, "What's going on here?" And I was in the hallway with my sister, and I said, "Well, now I can do my HBO special over his dead body." And the next day, they released him from the hospital. And he lived like another 14 months, and I was like, "Oh my God, he hurt me."
Oh, he hurt you.
He's like, "Oh, really?"
He pulled that.
And then, yeah. So then he died, and then like 3 months later, a pandemic strikes, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what is he doing?" I called him the comedy pop walker. He's still comedy pop walking.
Yeah, you think I'm gone, huh?
Exactly.
No,
Watch
punk.
what I'm doing now. I'm like, wow. So yeah,
I think I know what's going on there because right before I called you for the show, I spilled some rice on the floor and it spelled "Don't call Bobby" on it. I'm like, what the hell's going on? How did this rice do that?
That's all right. Later, when you go to check, you're like, didn't report. That was weird.
Yeah, the damn SD card's on fire. What the hell is this?
That seems wrong. So, yeah, and the other thing was, like, I started doing comedy as very young, before I did stage comedy, but as a protective device. So, like, I had 4 sisters and no brothers. I grew up in a neighborhood where I was the only Catholic kid, and so I got picked on a lot. And since I was slow, fat, and whatever, and wore glasses, I wasn't going to beat up anybody. I certainly wasn't going to outrun anybody. But then when I learned if I could make fun of somebody, the other kids would laugh, and then they would protect me. Mm-hmm. Because they were like, no, that's cool. That was funny. He's funny. We'll leave him alone, kind of a thing. And, yeah, and then when I was going to high school, I went to Catholic high school, but they used to pick us up and drive us forever to get to the school. And out the bus was notorious for beating up freshmen and doing all that kind of shit. So this guy I knew who was a couple years older, he said, wait till, you get on the bus. They're going to beat the shit out of you or whatever. I was like, yeah, maybe. I'll think of something. So I used to do sound effects. So the first day, in the afternoon, we're driving. I'm like sitting right behind the bus driver, and I see them coming up. I can see them walking up to come get me. And I used to do like an ambulance sound, whatever, fire engine kind of thing. So I do that as loud as I can, and the bus driver pulls over, and the whole bus cracks up, right? And the bus driver's like, "Whoa, what's going on? Well, Bob, is that you?" So then they were like, "Well, that's funny." So then I was brought back as like an amusement star.
Hey, if you really think about it, on those school buses, that was literally one of your most impressive and important set lists you've ever put together.
Oh, exactly. And the best was to call back like 2 months later. I'm sitting in the back of the bus, we're all like passed out because we're tired or whatever. And an ambulance is behind us. And the bus driver says, "Hey, Bob, it's not funny." And I said, No. I'm not doing. I can't talk and do it at the same time. You got to pull over. Oh shit! And then everybody laughed, and I was like, "Man, I didn't even have to do anything."
It's a freebie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like when you're doing some crowd work and you're talking to someone in the audience, and they say something funny, and you just let it happen because you're going to get the credit for it anyway.
Well, right. That's really, because usually then they try something else and it's like, you should have stopped there. So, that's actually, to be honest with you, I get a kick out of that because, they hang themselves out to dry. You just let it sit there for about 2 or 3 seconds. It's true. Now, I love doing crowd work, but I like jumping into the audience, and which not a lot of people like or will do or any of that stuff. And the only people that get nervous are the other comics. Other comics are always like, "Dude, when you do that, it just makes us all anxious." What are you doing? So I was in Vegas and I did it, and there was a guy trying to record the show, and he was like, he's out there with a camera, and he was just like, he came back later, just Bobby, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean what are you doing? I'm doing my thing. I just go, well, if you're going to tell people, I said, tell people what. I don't tell any. I just do what I do. That's what I do, you know. And I like doing it. But I was at the Spaghetti Warehouse, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We did many a fine show there. So
Yeah.
one night I'm in there, and the MC I was featuring. The MC basically was having trouble with the mic, and then when I got up there, the mic died, like it wasn't working. So I just walked to the center of the room and just started screaming everything I was doing and wandering around and doing that till my time was up there, my half hour. So I finished, and the headliner was Jim Daly, you know, Magic Man. And so he goes, oh, that was clever, you know, acting like the mic was broken. I said, it's not clever. The mic is broken. He goes, really? I said, yeah. I said, well, I'm not going to do a half hour of a broken mic. That's not a trick.
I've also played the Spaghetti Warehouse. We had a karaoke machine we had to use for a while there.
Oh, wow. But one night I went and I was going to feature, and when we got into the room, we realized there were only 8 people, which is not, normally it was a pretty good crowd, but that night there were 8 people.
Mm-hmm.
And they told us when we got there that they didn't have many reservations and maybe we could stand out front and tell people to come to it. So while I'm standing out front, a bachelorette party comes in, and I'm like, hey, you guys should come to the comedy show. And they didn't, but they went into another room. So the 8 people are in the room. Now, how's this? What are the chances that there are 8 people in the room, all 4 of them on first dates?
Ooh.
Talk about a pucker crowd.
Ooh. Let me give the audience a little bit of information. We're talking about the Spaghetti Warehouse, and that's not just a name. It literally was a restaurant that was a pasta and spaghetti and lasagna restaurant, and they had a little room in the back where people did comedy. And there was a time when that little room was packed to the gills.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you literally would have a hard time walking to the stage. And even in a room that small, we used to pack, I mean, the room was technically supposed to only have about 65 people in there at the most. We were packing in 120. Yeah, I said it. And, you know, and it was beautiful. It was really fun. It was like being in the belly room at the Comedy Store in L.A.
Exactly. Had that same feel. You're right.
You know,
that was the sort of room. Not with 8 people.
Yeah, I've been in there. I've been in there with 120, and I've also been in there with 12.
Yeah.
You know,
and there's the 8 people, all on first dates, whatever. It was, you know, like you do your time. You get the. Wait, there's no rolling anything. That's
wow.
But after I was finished, I went and next door to find the bachelorette party.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't gotten my fix, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't gotten my, I had to do something else. I had more stuff to release here. So I went next door to the bachelorette party, and I started doing I was just, telling jokes, and I did some little thing that I used to do with asking names, and their name would appear in my arms, like this tattoo to your name and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in there doing that, and then they're like, Bobby, you got to come with us the rest of the night. And I said, well, you're going to have to pay me to do that. So, so this is great. So they go, all right, we'll give you $100. I said, well, let me call my agent. Well, come on. I'm like, well, the bachelorette party said they'll give me $100 to go. She goes, tell them it's 200 or you're not going. I said, it's 200. They're like, oh, we can't do 200. She goes, you're coming home. I'm like, okay, I'm going home. Now, why I ever did that? Why I should have said, oh, yeah, that 200 was fine.
My friend, when there's a bachelorette party, you go. Okay, you go.
Yeah. In retrospect, I probably just should have said, "Oh, great, they said yes," and then whatever. But I had to get my time out because of that. Like I couldn't. 8 people wasn't giving me the adrenaline that I needed to do.
It's a different feeling of for people that have never stood on the stage, whether you're an actor or a singer or a comic, there's a different feeling once you get to about 100 people. You know, and 100 people and up, there's a feeling that you get that nothing really can match that. And when you're used to performing in front of packed crowds and packed comedy clubs and places like that, and then you go to some place when there's 8 people. First of all, you look at the room, and you know there's supposed to be 300 people in there, and there's 27. You know, that usually happens on a Tuesday. You know what I mean? It's like, you know,
Yeah.
and you're going, why don't you just do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? No, we're doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm going, you never get more than 50 people here. There's one waitress,
Right.
one bartender. You know, why am I in the city one day early when I should be back in New Jersey or Philly, wherever I'm living at the time, and then I'll come in and then we'll do the show. And they always do that. They drag you in. I'm like, what are you trying to make sure that the comic is in town? So you put a fake show on to make sure we're there?
Yeah, which you wonder about. Sounds about the right tactic. Yeah.
You know, they want. I mean, let's be honest. One of the scariest things in the world, if you're a booker, is, and I've done this before, where I've managed the comedy rooms, and obviously you've done that before.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at that clock and the show starts at 8, and then you get a phone call, yeah, we're on I-95. How do you get to Trenton? Oh my God. It's like, why weren't you here already? The show was at 8. Why would you leave New York City at 5:25? What are you doing?
No, I remember one time I was with Parami again, going to bring him back. He and I are driving up to Long Island, and I said, where are Long Island? It's just, right? No, not far. Well, next thing you know, we're almost in Spain. You know, we're so far out there. We pull up at the 8 o'clock show. We pull up at like 7:55. So Jeff, we're late. He goes, I'm not late. I don't go on for another half hour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're on in 5 minutes, not me.
I went to Williamsport with Will Neary, which is 4 hours away from where I was. See, the thing was, I didn't like to go in the car with other comics. Not that I didn't love the comics. I did. These were friends. These were people I respected, people I loved. But they always like to show up at 7:52.
I know. I hate that.
I literally, if I have an 8 o'clock show in Baltimore, I'm eating lunch, or not lunch, but I'm already in the city at 4 o'clock.
Right.
You know, I'm in my hotel room. You know, I'm in my hotel room at 5 o'clock or 4:30 or something like that. That's why people were going, oh, we love S, but we are not traveling with him. Why? Because his stupid ass gets to town 4 or 5 hours early.
Yeah. Well, we could have ruled together, because I never like being late, because that drives me crazy. Because I want to get a feel for I want to see what's going on. You know, I need to figure it out. But I don't know if you've ever worked when the people that ran, Dolly and her husband that ran the Spaghetti Warehouse room, they also had a room at a hotel in King of Prussia.
Yes, I did.
The Holiday Inn room, right? So I was there, and the only reason I know is because of the way the setup was. I was watching NFL playoff football at the bar, waiting for the show. So I'm sitting there watching the game. I'm watching the game. There are 3 young ladies across the bar yakking away, and I'm just listening, but I'm watching the game. And the one girl goes, am I the only person who hasn't gotten laid since New Year's? And I'm like, please tell me they're going to the show. Please tell me they're going to the show. Please tell me they're going to the show. So the show starts or whatever. I look down. I'm like, I think they're there. So I walk up on stage. I look down. I go, who would have thought we were all in the same bar getting a drink before the show? And the one girl looks at me like, oh my God. I said, hey, has anyone else not gotten laid since New Year's?
Recon.
My goodness. She's like, oh my God, you didn't tell us. I said, I didn't speak to you at all. What am I going to wear? I'm going to wear a sticker on my shoulder?
It's a weird thing, because it's like that particular place. And for those listening, when he was talking about Steve and Dolly, they were the ones that actually ran the Spaghetti Warehouse that we had spoken about a few minutes earlier. and they did a bunch of different gigs around. And
Mhm.
if you're a comic, because like a third of the audience that listens to the show is like
Hmm.
in their early 20s.
Ah,
So that's why sometimes like when I look at the stats, literally a third of this audience, a third of the people listening to us right now are in their like 20 to 25, 26, 20, somewhere around there. So
that's cool.
yeah, so but the thing is, when you do stand up comedy, everybody sees the comedy clubs, the improvs and the Laugh Factories and places like that.
Hmm.
But you also fill in, if you're in your hometown, you fill in with spaghetti warehouse type places. You play bars.
Hmm.
I actually emceed when I was not old enough to be in the room or in the building at all. Strip clubs.
That. Yep.
I was not only I was like 18 or 19 years old. I was not old. That
Wow.
was down in Philly, my hometown. I was not old enough to be in the building, and I'm sharing a dressing room with a bunch of strippers,
Wow.
and I'm sitting in a chair, and they're taking their clothes off and talking to me like I'm going. I'm not supposed to act like I'm seeing all of this.
Right.
you know, they're just walking around. You are so funny, sweetie, and then they all come and hug and kiss on you, not wearing anything.
Mm,
And
right.
I'm sitting there
Yeah.
going, are they playing a prank? And they were just so comfortable being nude, they didn't think about it. It's like, well, we're in show business. You're in show business. It's not like you're going to attack us. You seem like a cute little guy. So, hey, we're going to have our breasts out and everything else out while we talk to you. And,
Wow.
you know, and that's what it's like when you're coming up as a comic. You play places like that. I would be honest with you, I wouldn't mind playing places like that again. I mean, no, I wouldn't. That's wrong. So,
They won't. They won't let us in now.
get your old ass out. You're not slick, you bastard.
That's it. No, no. We'll be relegated. We have to go work at the Elk Lodge and the Moose Lodge. And, I've done millions of those,
Oh yeah,
and they're
those. To
cool.
be honest with you, though, I've
They're good
gotten
gigs.
some of my best tapes ever at Pickle Man gigs that were at Moose Lodges and
Yeah.
firehouses.
Uh huh. Yeah.
And I mean, because the thing is, first of all, there are 400 people there,
Yeah.
right?
That's
They
true.
really want to see a show badly,
Oh yeah.
and if you had a firehouse, if that they always have that big glass window where the door is, where the
Hmm.
door slides up, and if there were lights coming through the background, and I had my camera all the way in the back, it looked like a damn HBO special.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, it was great.
They those are good gigs. I like them a lot. And because what happens is if you when you play a comedy club in New York or LA or San Francisco or any of those places, the audience can be segmented from everywhere and all over the place and whatever. But if you go to one of these Elks or Moose Lodges or whatever, you can pretty much hone in on what 99% of the audience knows or listens to. When you pull into that gig and there's 500 pickup trucks out there, you realize, okay, I think we know where to stay in the lane over here. You got to read the room a little bit. Don't,
I know you've done this because we've done a lot of the same gigs on the East Coast. But like you just said, you walk in and you go, is this a it's like, is this an F-150 showroom or something? What the hell is going?
exactly.
I'm like, what the hell? I know it's the most popular
Yeah.
vehicle in America, but damn, I think
Right.
the reason it's the most popular vehicle in America is because of these people.
Right. It's like the guy with the black F-150 left your lights on. Which one of us? Yeah.
Have you ever done the what is really weird? It was like when you do gigs in upstate New York, upstate Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
and states like that, and you see I don't see the thing is I got used to the pickup trucks. I know how to work that. You know how to work those rooms.
Yep.
You as soon as you walk in, all you got to do is listen to the level of the murmur or the type of murmur the audience has, and you've been doing it long enough. You know exactly what energy level you have to hit them with because of the way the murmur is. But a
Mm-hmm.
couple of gigs, I did a gig with some friends, some people that you know too, obviously, because we know a lot of the same people. And we walked in. Every vehicle outside was a chopper, a
Whoa.
motorcycle.
Yikes. Yeah. Right.
And we walked into the room, and like 95% of the room had colors on.
Oh.
They had, you know what I mean? So for those of
Mhm.
you, for those of you, so for my young audience and for people that don't know, there was a big biker gang in there.
Mm.
And I'm looking at them and I'm going, there's really no reason for this many bikers to be in a. I said the only reason, and I'm as somebody who lives in Pennsylvania, I know that usually with this particular group, and I'm not going to mention any names. All right, I'm not going to be any more specific than that. But from what I understand, when you see this group, this particular group in this particular number, there's a reason for it, and it rhymes with Beth Run. So I'm sitting there going, "Oh my god!" I'm sitting there going, "Oh," and
Mm.
you have to do the show because you need the money because you drove that far to get to it, and you're going,
Right.
"I'm either going to kill or die."
Right. Yeah. Kill or be killed.
It's like, and once you've done about 120 gigs like that, and I swear I've done at
Oh yeah.
least 100, like no, that's probably several hundred like that. So have you.
Mm.
It just kind of
Oh
hardens
God.
you to everything. You've seen so much after a while. It's like, if I die, whatever.
Right. So but then you get the gigs where they throw the curveball when you walk in,
Mm-hmm.
and that one I always like. So I got one where it was I was told I knew it was being held at synagogue, but I was told that it was only held there because that's the room they had, and it's a diverse crowd, and don't worry about it, anything goes, blah blah blah. And I get there, and it's I get one of those. Oh yeah, we didn't realize that it was that Villanova was playing in the Final Four. It was like down in South Jersey. But like we didn't realize that Villanova was going to play the Final Four this year, so the crowd's going to be small, and it's going to be all older Jewish people, and you can't say this, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. I go, well, do you have any? Like a blindfold and some tape so you can take one arm behind my back and blindfold. I mean, you might as well just add all the things here. Like, well, you know what a good time to tell me this was? Not now. So I'm like, okay, fine, yeah, sure, we'll figure this out. So so the guy who I was headlining, but the guy who was featuring, just like went into autopilot and doing his normal act, and at one point. He made a Holocaust joke.
Mm.
And I was like, oh. Well, I think at this point, all I have to do is stay away from that, and I'll be a winner.
I'm like, I was like, I was like, what?
Yeah, I'm like, somebody didn't read the room.
I was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what is wrong? I've seen people. I did a Brene Brith show.
Right.
And the people, it was something very similar. He didn't go, he didn't go straight to a Holocaust routine, but he did something similarly inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in the back like, I'd even never seen him do that bit. So you do it now?
Right.
And that's like, it's like you're going to go to the Afro-American Historical and Cultural Museum and start busting out the slavery bits?
Well, yeah, no problem. Not a good idea. So, but, the thing is, when you see an audience like that, you're like, I don't know about this. So he did that, so that actually made it better for me.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did, I said, is this a kosher? And they said, yeah. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I think I was mixing up the meat and the dairy back there. So I did a few of those references because I know. And the one older guy came up later and he says, you didn't really mess up the stuff in the kitchen, did you? And
I got to check, buddy.
I contaminated the whole place. That's what I did.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing that I don't know. I said this to somebody. I think I'm trying to remember who it was that was on the show in the last series of chats. It was but I remember saying to them that essentially, and I'll see. I'm going to run this by you, see if you agree with this.
Mm-hmm.
Comics, especially when you become a good comic, when you remember back early when you got to the point where you pretty much knew what response you were going to get whenever you went on stage.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know you're good at this point where you go, okay, 99% of the time it's going to be fine, and you know, and I said, comics essentially, even if we don't know each other, if you're a good comic and you can tell this person is good, you are essentially like first cousins.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
the second we meet another comic, once we detect that he or she is a good comic, all of a sudden, bang, you fall into this fast friendship, you know,
Right.
because you've experienced the same stuff. We are from the East Coast. There's comics in Texas who are playing hell gigs that suck. you know?
Oh, yeah, well, right. We all have the same stories of how we got there, and like I'll never forget. It was early on when I was doing stuff in Philly, and I did some show at a country club, and man, they were tight as tight goes, and we had a bad sound system, so it was the worst ever, and I came off, and I was just like, oof, that was rough, and the headliner gives me one of those taps on the shoulder and goes, "Watch how it's done, kid." I'm like, okay. And he goes up there and eats a dick worse than anybody I've ever seen eat one. And I was like, I am totally watching how this is done. And he's not a bad guy, and he, I'm sure and I know that he does well. But it was like, no, I'm sorry, there are certain situations where I don't care who shows up, this ain't working.
Yeah, and also it's like there's certain times, like you just said, there are certain times, unless you're some ultra star that they're just in awe of,
Right.
they're just like, the hell with you, loser. And also, and as you know, after about 10 years, you've been in enough bars, you've been in enough country clubs, because I have a similar story,
Mm.
and then after a while, you just start picking up these little techniques that flip rooms like that.
Oh yeah, so that's the thing. Like I would love to go back to that room today because I would slap them around and call them soup because I was,
Yes,
but right,
it's weird.
yeah,
It's weird when
yeah,
you watch. One of the funny things that used to crack me up is when you've obviously we're both like 3 decades in at this point,
mm,
but when you're about 8 or 9 years in, you're heading towards the 10-year mark, and you're good. You're legitimately good, and it legitimately goes well. And you see a young comic. Now, when I say young comic, it doesn't necessarily mean the person has to be younger than you. They're just younger than you as a comedian.
right,
And
last
you're
year,
watching
yeah,
them, and the funny thing about it is the young ones who are actually younger than you, if you walk up to them and you see a mistake that they're making technique wise, obviously, as you know, there are specific techniques that you have to learn that everybody uses. Okay, they're just, it's
mm-hmm.
like martial arts. Everybody throws a punch the same way. You can mix up
Right,
how you do it, but the punch is thrown the same way. So you walk up to them and you go, look, blah, blah, blah. Because I remember it was a guy, and this is a classic young comic mistake. We're in a room, I'm waiting, I'm headlining the room, and these have an opening act and a feature. And the feature had just moved to feature. And he was like, he had that puppy that when you walk in the house and the puppy runs up to you, had that kind of giddiness. And he's killing.
mm-hmm.
He's doing crowd work to one side of the room and
Mm.
completely ignored the other side of the room.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what happens there, right?
Oh, no good. Yeah,
So now you got 150 people are like, are we still here? You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
so he has to go back to that side of the room to get them going, and he's so concentrating on getting them going that he ignores
Mm,
the original 150 people on the other, and it
mm,
just ruined his set. And I pulled him to the side. I said, listen, man,
yeah.
if you find some gold on one side of the room, that's cool. But you always have to turn back to the other side of the room, even if you're not going to do crowd work with them. Just hit them with a little
Right.
something to keep the plate spinning, and they're fine. He
Yeah.
took the advice. The other person who was closer to my age, no, he was actually maybe a couple of years older than me. He did exactly the same mistake. I took him aside to tell him that, and I could tell he had a look in his face like, "You
You don't
think
tell
you
me what
know
to do.
everything, punk."
Yeah. 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 It's true though. Sometimes people don't want to listen, which is all fine, but it's like it's years of experience of watching how it develops. I mean, yeah, there was a guy, I'll never forget, I was doing a show, and this guy, he's going to MC, right? And he says, I have so many hours of material, I don't know what I should do. And I'm like, you have so many hours of material, you don't know what to do, and you're the MC. Okay, good. So then he goes up and he's, doing his little, and he's dying, and I'm thinking, of all of the hours of material, that's the intro.
I don't want to do my 9 hours of good stuff. I got this 50 minutes that blows.
Right. It's like, I'm thinking, first of all, what are you doing telling anyone how many hours of material? Like, I don't care. I'm not in the audience. Like, don't even talk to me about that shit. But then you get up and that's what you do? It's like, wow, what are the other, 10 hours of material that is terrible?
You know what's funny? It's like, I don't have kids. You have kids?
Yes, I have one.
You have a kid? Okay, well.
Yeah, she'll be 20. She'll be 25.
I was going to say I was going to say we're both up there, so she's an adult by now.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how you have the little book when you have a baby, and they go, in 1 month they do this, and in 2 months they do this.
Right.
It's the same thing with comedians. In the first year they do this, and at 6 months they do this, and you can watch it happening. It's like, dude, 30-something years ago, I was you. I already know what you're going to do next. You're going to wrap the microphone around your hand, the microphone cord around your hand too many times. You're going to look down at the ground and go, what do I want to talk about now?
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, it's funny. My daughter wrote a paper in college, and I don't even think I read it because I was too shocked by the title. The title was, what was it? It was My Father the Comedian and How I Survived All These Years. And I was like, wait, what?
Ooh, that sounds like a one-person show.
I'm like, what's that supposed to mean? But when I said earlier that I did I was doing Ozzy a lot, just to change it for me or whatever. And that way, like, if I went back to do, because I started booking some shows. So, and one year was the best. I was emceeing it for a bunch of years. And then one year, something happened. I'm like, all right, I'll feature as Ozzy, so it'll be different or whatever. So I do it, and then I come back after the show, and this guy goes, where's that Ozzy guy? He was great. And the other guy goes, it's him. And he goes, it's not him, stupid. And I'm like, I think you're both stupid. I don't understand why you're even having this problem. And the guy goes, oh my God, that was you? And I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with you people? But I had headshots at the time that it was a split. There was a picture of me as Ozzy, and it would say OZ-Z, and then the other guy was Bobby Z, right? So my daughter was like 8 or 9 at that point. Oh God, that's a long time ago. So she says, Dad, give me, I want an autograph copy of that or whatever. So I said, on the Ozzy side, I wrote, Dear Jamie, you're like a daughter to me. Love Ozzy. And she laughed, and my wife goes, that's terrible. And my daughter turns to my wife and says, Mom, hold up the picture and goes, this guy, pointing at the Bobby Z side, she said, not my father. This guy in the Ozzy outfit, definitely not my father.
All right.
And I was like, how come she knows?
Now, I got to ask you this. Now, I saw SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah.
Which means you have added acting.
Well, so I was a voiceover guy in L.A., and that's where I got doing that. I did a lot of I did a lot of cartoon type stuff and all that kind of thing. And yeah, and then but the thing about acting now is that I always looked like I was a 10-year-old kid until about 5 years ago. So that's when I started growing facial hair. But now I definitely, as I get older, I want to go back to acting because I feel like I can play a father on TV kind of thing now. And I know a lot of people. I still work in the TV and film biz, you know, on the equipment side. So I meet a lot of guys. And because of Zoom, I'm on Zoom all the time doing these things. And one of the directors actually saw one of my things I was doing and wrote to me and said, "Dude, I'm doing a Western because my hair is long and my beard is long and all stuff. Because I'm doing a Western over the summer in LA. So if you come back, because I go to LA. Oh, I used to go to LA once a week a month. And but I probably will now. I'm vaccinated and we'll probably get that going. But, so I definitely want to do more acting then. But the voiceover thing, I was doing some in LA. And then I got married, and we moved to New York. And then I was getting an agent, but then I had to get a day job before the agent got me, you know what I mean? And so I kind of had to give that up. But I still keep it because, as I would say, the good thing, like if you're a baseball player, you're pretty much, no matter how good you are, you can't play beyond a certain time, right? But with comedy, acting, voiceovers, they're lifetime gigs. I mean, you know, George Segal just died at 89, still working. You know, Betty White's 104 in the shade, and she's still working. So I intend to do that forever.
We never, because you look at athletes, you got 24 to 34, then it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're just getting up to full strength at 34.
Well,
you know?
I'm laughing because I'm thinking, you know what? If I retire and decide to go full force in acting at 65, say, right? I could have a 20-year acting career without a problem. That's crazy, right? And with insurance, this was like my plan, though. It's like I got to go back to doing voiceover because I've done a lot of voiceovers over the years, mostly as favors. Not favors, but I get paid, but nothing I'm like pursuing actively. And because it's funny too, a friend of mine works with Jimmy Buffett, and every once in a while he's like, "Dude, I need you to do if you're making an accent of a guy saying the plane's coming in too low, and I need it in like 20 minutes." And I'm like, "What?" The plane is coming in too low, man. You know, so like I'm in a closet recording, and then I send it, and he's like, "Oh, they loved it." I'm like, "Okay, sure." So I keep my hand in it, but it's something I can't wait to do full time again. And but again, you can do it forever. And like, you know, George Burns he had his 100th birthday gig all lined up before he died. I mean, your audience was like, "Who the hell is George Burns?"
Yeah. The funny thing about it, literally, I mean, I was surprised at how many. I was like, huh. Because I don't, you know, after you've been doing it a while, you know, you can go back and really look at the stats. It's like, I just look the first day to make sure everything's counting properly. Then I completely ignore it and just begin with the next episode and things of that nature. And then one day I went back and looked and I went, what? I say, what? You know, I expect young people to come see me live, but I didn't know that, you know, like right now in a couple of days when I put this up, there's going to be 20-somethings walking around campuses listening to this. You know?
That's cool, though.
Or on treadmills or something. Because I was completely shocked. I was like, what the? I was like, no, by the way, young people, I'm glad you're here. Okay? Just want to let you know that right now. I'm glad you're here. And I'm saying that not just because I like to suck up to the audience, but because I'm old now and most of you could probably beat my ass now. So
but also we need them to earn money to pay for our Social Security.
Yeah, you bastards. Get some high-paying jobs and pay some taxes, damn it. Especially now. You know, I'm not going to get any STEMI. I want a STEMI, damn it. You know, but it's a weird thing to when you start to get an idea of who's listening to you. Now, as far as I want to something I wanted to ask you about the voice, because the voiceover thing. I know some friends in LA trying to get into that, and one of my friends was he was an engineer, and he did the Casey Kasem countdown and things of that nature.
Yeah,
it is ridiculously hard to get into voiceover. Good Lord.
Yeah, you
super
get
tough.
Yeah, you have to get an agent and all that stuff. And so I went out. So when I first submitted my first tape to get voiceover stuff, I did what you're not supposed to do. I made a homemade tape and I sent it to Hanna-Barbera.
Mm-hmm.
And Hanna-Barbera called me.
Yeah.
And said, come on in for an audition. I was like, cool, I'm ready. So I get there, and they said, all right, so here's some scripts. Go through them, pick two, and then when you're ready, we'll come back. We'll get you, hooked up. I'm like, okay, sounds good. I'm like 23, I think I am, right? So I walk back. I walk down the hallway, and as I'm walking down the hallway, all the guys that do voices, mostly Mel Blanc and all these other guys, and I'm just like, oh boy, wow, look at this hallway. Going into the room. The room is gigantic. There's a single microphone and a single music stand there for your notes and stuff, and it's 2 stories high. And these people are behind glass on the second floor that you can't see, and they're like, "Okay, just say your name and read the script." I'm like, "Okay." So I go through that. I do the first one. They're like, okay, that's good. Second one, okay. And I go and I do the second one. And then they come in, okay, why don't you just do, all the voices that you do. And you got 5 minutes, go ahead. I'm like, okay. I go on for what I feel is 10 minutes. And they go, okay, you still have time. And I was like, oh, I think I'm out.
Start making up fake voices.
Yeah, I'm like, huh? So I leave, or going out, and they say, hey, you know what, we're going to listen back to it, whatever, and we'll be in touch. I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Mm-hmm. They called. They did. They called. They said, look, Bobby, great stuff, but, you obviously don't have an agent, or you wouldn't have sent an unsolicited tape.
Yeah.
So what we suggest is that maybe you go take a couple lessons, get a real tape made, go get an agent, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So I contact this guy to make a tape, and he says, wait a minute, let me get this straight. You sent an unsolicited And he said, but they listened to you? So then I got, all right, pretty good. So I get it all going up. I'm trying. Now I'm sending out letters. Now I have this tape. I send it out to every agent in Hollywood, and I'm getting nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
A couple weeks later, a guy buys the townhouse next to the girl I'm dating, who's now my wife. Mm-hmm. And he comes in, and my wife and I look at him, and we go, well, that guy looks familiar, doesn't he? And she said, I said, maybe he must be an actor, blah, blah. So we realized he's an actor. So I'm talking to him, and I said, one day, we started playing golf, we do all these things, and he says, well, Bob, I did a lot of voiceover work when I first got to New York when I was in my 20s. And I said, oh, really? And he says, the ragu, that's Italian. And I was like, holy shit, you're the ragu guy? He was the ragu, that's Italian guy for 20 years. He never, because I asked him one time, I said, oh, were you a waiter? What were you doing before you were a full-time actor? He's like, no, I got to New York. I took my sweet time through college. I did it. And he said, I got there 2 weeks after I got the ragu job for 18 straight years.
Jeez.
So I said, well, do you mind sending my tape to... So he dropped his tape off with his agent, and his agent called me and said, hey, come on in. I like your tape. I'm like, you do? She goes, no, I really do like your tape, but I would never have listened to it if James hadn't dropped it on my lap. I said, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. You gotta be a made man in business.
Well, it helped. At the very first audition, I go to their place, and they used to, because then you had to go there and do an audition at they have a pager and get beeped and go there And so I'm in the room to do this audition, and the other two people in the room, the one guy was the guy who played Les Nessman on WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And the other guy was Sliggy from Laverne and Shirley, David Lynn.
David. Yeah.
And he walks in and goes, "Hello, everybody," does his thing. And so I'm in the room, and I'm like, am I in the room with the has-beens already? But what I didn't realize is how much voiceover work those two guys were doing, because they had familiar sounding voices. They were doing a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was not. So I was in with those, but it was intimidating, but it was kind of fun at the same time to be in a room with those guys. But that was before social media or pager. I mean, we had pagers. We didn't have cell phones, so we couldn't keep in contact with anybody. You just did what you did. But when I moved to New York, pick it up. So, but that's why I pay my dues so I can get these free screeners, and hope that I get back to it much more full time at some point, which I will.
Yeah, and as far as the stand up is concerned,
so the stand up, I mean, it took me COVID hiatus, but that I keep doing as much as I can, because it's easy to do comedy. You can get a lot of filler, shows doing different things like Elks Lodge, Moose Lodge, that kind of stuff. I go to Vegas a couple times a year for my other job, and I get on stage while I'm there, and I never tell anybody I work with that I'm on stage till the next day. Last night, I did the midnight show at the South Point Casino. 300 people. It was awesome.
Why don't you tell us, man?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it's not my thing. I don't want people I know there. That's not why I do it.
Come on, man. You got to tell us, man.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'll entertain you at lunch.
That's just a weird thing when people that show up at the show.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
It depends. Like, some people I don't mind that are there, and other people I'm like, no, this is awkward. And I don't like knowing people when I walk through the audience. Obviously, I don't want to talk to anyone I know. What fun is that? There's no adventure there.
I had an ex-girlfriend that I literally broke up with, and I just forgot about her. And then she was sitting in the front row with whatever dude she was dating next.
That's awkward.
She was horrified, and the guy didn't know why. And I thought it was the funniest thing in the world, because that's not going to stop me from doing my show.
Well, no,
that's not going to slow me down even a little bit. But to look at her face like, oh my God. Like, I'm sitting there in my mind, I'm thinking, we broke up. We're cool. We didn't have a horrible breakup. It's been a while. I didn't expect you to sit in the closet and stare at a wall and not date anybody. I got a new girlfriend with and she just doesn't happen to be here right now. What's the difference? So
sometimes I don't mind if I find out that somebody didn't tell me they were in the audience. That's kind of cool. Yeah. But when we do, like, when I was doing those fundraisers, like my daughter's school, I'm like, now we're really kind of, crossing the streams here. Because that time I had Ferrandi introduce me, I told him, I could hear the introduction could be, you may know him as Coach Bob, because I was coaching sports or whatever, but in comedy we call him Bobby Z, right? He gets up there and he goes, your next comedian is a guy, you may know him as Coach Bobby, but in comedy we call him Coach Bobby. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, that's one thing that always cracked me up about him, is that because I worked with Jeff too. Is you're gonna he's gonna break your stones. It's coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not gonna stop from the moment he gets there to the moment he leaves. Which is fine. That's what comics do to each other. Because your wife is she a veteran comedy wife now? She realizes that when you're hanging out with the other comics, that you're going to torture each other the entire time you're in each other's presence?
Well, yeah, she knows a lot of that, and she's better at it now. So the thing, like I always say that there's two different kinds of comics. There's there's party funny, and then there's stage funny, and some people are both. Like Parambi was both. He was always on, and he did that, right? But there are other guys, they didn't talk after they got off stage. So my wife didn't understand that at first. Because she go to talk to them, they're like, I'm going to go back to my basement. Don't talk to me. So she didn't understand that, and that was, that got weird. But one night, she fell asleep at one of the clubs in Philly in the audience after I was done. And then, like, the woman running the room goes, you got to get your wife. She's sleeping in the back. I was like, that's not good. So I get her out. We're out in the lobby, and then other guys showed up that were working other places and came to the club, And the one guy goes, "Hey, Bobby," he goes, "You want to come to the strip club with my wife and I? You and your wife want to come?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Ask my wife. I'm sure she'll want to do that." And so he goes, "Hey, Mrs. Z, you want to come to the strip? My wife and I go to the strip club. Do you and Bobby want to come to the strip club?" And she goes, "Yeah, okay." And I'm like, "Who is that?" So I'm like, "Huh? We are?" What? So we get in the car, and she goes, "What the hell is this?" And I go, "Well, you said yes. What you say yes for, right?" She goes, "Well, he asked." I said, "He's not the CEO of the company. Like, who's there?" She goes, "Well, now we have to go." And I'm like, "Well, sounds like a delightful time."
Wait a minute. Now I got to ask you. This is an important question about this situation. At this point, how long were you actually married when this happened?
Oh, at least 10 years, probably 12. I mean, we were married a long time. And
you're a dead man. That was your cue to get her out of there.
Oh, no. So, right. But she said yes. I'm like, huh? So then you get in the car. So then she goes, "Well, now we have to go." I said, "All right, fine." So don't worry, we're not going to stay long. This is not going to be fun. I can just tell. So we walk up to the place, and they tell us the cover charge, and my wife reaches in her wallet to pay, and I go, "Wow, how cool is that?" Both the girl accepting the money and my wife both look at me like, "You are a dick," and I'm like, "Yes, I am." "Well, we'll be leaving soon." So we went in for about 4.5 minutes, and we left, and I was like, "That was not a good thing." And I'm laughing. She's yelling at me. I'm like, "This is not really my fault. I did not say yes." She was like, "You say no," and I said it as much sarcasm as I possibly could. Yeah, why don't you ask her?
Man.
It was the last time. I think it might have been the last time I ever went to a strip club, because when you go in with your wife's goggles on, you realize this is not a place you want to be.
Oh no! The thing about it is that I've played those places, so by the time I was old enough to legally go into the places,
you already knew they were not good.
It's like the fascination was gone. It's like I've actually, as I said, it's like I'm actually having sex now. I don't necessarily. I mean, I can actually see naked women at my house. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not going to give you money. I can actually take the woman who's going to take her clothes off just for me. I can take her to dinner and then actually have sex, or I can sit there with this person who just wants me to hand them bills and then not have sex, or I could spend time with someone who's going to have sex. Let me think about that for a minute.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's totally true. And then, of course, as I have a daughter, so as she gets older and all those things, you're just like, that's not a good idea at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
man. Oh, has your daughter come to see you?
She has seen me. She's seen me do some things. I'm trying to think. I know the first time she ever saw me, I was dressed as Ozzy at a Halloween party, a friend's Halloween party, and they're like, "Can you do something?" And I'm like, "Can I do something? What are you talking about?" So I did do a little bit of a set where I brought up the guy. It was a combination of Halloween and birthday party. So the guy's wife, I brought her on stage and did some stuff, and she, I embarrassed her or whatever. But my daughter was like, "Oh, that was kind of weird." And she's seen me do some other things. And But that's another one. Oh, I know what I did. Yeah, I did a high school. That's right. We did comedy for her high school. And I got like a bunch of guys because, well, I know it's hard, right? So I said, well, we got to be clean. So I'm like, all right, everybody come and do your cleanest 4 minutes. And, yeah, and we did that. That was pretty good. Then Karandi did that show too. And I was like, oh boy, here we are living on the edge, because he yells out to his teacher, he goes, where's you on your honeymoon? And the girl goes, Punta Cana. And he goes, what'd you call me?
It's like, it's just one of those things where it's just a funny thing when you see your friends and you're so used to them that you don't see them the way normal people see them.
Right? Well, right. Yeah.
You're going, I'm used to seeing you with my eyes. And then you go, oh, God, you're around normal people. Oh, God, no.
No. Right. Yeah. No, I know these people. Stop. Well, one of the comics was hilarious because my daughter came backstage and my daughter calls me Babbo, which is daddy in Italian. So she goes back and says, hey, Babbo, do you want me to introduce you or what? And I said, yeah, okay, fine. And this other comic heard her speak to me, didn't think she was my daughter because he thought she said Bob. And so then he starts asking her, and I go, whoa. I said, dude, that's my daughter. He goes, that's your daughter? Why does she call you Bobby? I said, she calls me Babbo, which is daddy. Like, get back off. She's 17 or whatever she was. Step away from the area, will you?
You just start reaching into your shirt, pretend like you got a gun in there.
What the hell's going on here? Yeah, that was kind of funny. But you,
well, let me ask you this: does your kid? I was going to say kid. She's a grown woman now. Does your daughter? I mean, it's a weird thing to ask because people always just assume if you're an entertainer that your children are also. Sometimes the kid looks at the entertainment and goes, hell no. I see what that's like, how tough that is. No. And then some people are like, I got to get some of that. So I'm assuming your daughter is in one of those camps.
Well, so it's funny because she not necessarily stand up, but she has been an actor and a singer and an entertainer. And she does some, on camera stuff now that I help her with. She's very funny and she could do comedy if she really wanted to, but I don't think she really wants to do that. But but I remember she was in 4th grade and she got the part of Cinderella in the school play. And I was like, I didn't know what she wanted to do. Well, she did a great job. Because she didn't act like a 4-year-old or a 4th grader. She acted like she was acting. She wasn't doing it. And I was amazed by the whole thing. I was nervous about it. But the last night of the run, the PTO president says, well, you're comfortable on stage. Can you go out and give away all the flowers to everybody and thank everybody and all that stuff? I'm like, me? What am I doing? Because we're used to. I'm like, oh, great. Okay, so I'm out there and I'm doing my thing, just saying thank you to everybody and whatever. And then I said, oh, and please, big hand for the lady who was doing sound, right? And my daughter, I was standing in front of the stage, like down, and she's up on the stage. And I said, oh, we got to thank Mrs. What's her name for doing sound. And my daughter leans over my shoulder and goes, yeah, because without her, we couldn't hear you. I'm like, I'm getting heckled by my own kid. What's going on here?
That's good stuff.
So I say to her, I said later, Jamie, you seem really comfortable on stage. Why is that? And she hits me and goes, it's in the blood, dude. Oh.
I'm telling you, it shows up early, and a lot of people don't recognize it. You know what I mean? It's just there. My mother was telling me years and years ago about my uncles and my aunts. And I remembered after they told me, I had tape recorders, and I was doing little skits into the recorder, and I would leave little spaces for dialogue, and then I would play the original tape and then insert the dialogue. So I was literally talking to myself and writing little shows like that, and I'm like 6, 7, 8 years old. That crap was there. I just didn't know it was there, and a lot of times people, when you think back and you're going, good, you were talking about the instinct that you had on the bus. Some of it was a survival instinct, but the ability was there already. And you took a while to figure out how to use it. It's like being Superman, and you're going, I jumped. I was going to just jump off the steps, but I seem to be levitating here.
Right.
I seem to be able to.
Honing it is the hard part, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Dialing it in is often the hard part. But you want to entertain people. I just always did, and no matter what. And I think that, and I know she has, and she does what she does, and it's kind of funny. But when she said, because the funny thing was, she says, it's in the blood, dude. And I'm thinking, well, at your age, I would have loved to have been the lead in a play, but I didn't have the look or whatever, and I certainly didn't have the confidence like that,
Mm-hmm.
where she's had it in spades, because when she got to high school, I think it was her senior year, the teacher, her Italian teacher, was getting in like an award in the whole district. It was a big thing. And so the principal calls and says, hey, would you mind doing an introduction of him for this award in front of all the teachers or whatever? And I'm laughing because I'm like, she's not going to give a shit who's there. She'll just do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she gets up there and she gets up and she improvs a little bit and does this whole thing and just goes crazy. And a couple of comics that I knew were teachers during the day who were in the audience, and one of them wrote to me and said, dude, your kid's like, way beyond you. And I was thinking, well, I hope that with each generation it would get better.
Yeah. It's just really weird because it's like, you have it and then you start to see it pop up in your kid, and they're going, is this a good thing or a bad thing? It's like, it's like, well, yeah.
Well, I thought we were going to. I'll be honest. I thought we were going to support a starving actor. I thought she was going to go for acting and doing that. And I was totally on board with that. Unlike my father, who was not on board with it, but I understood it from his perspective. He didn't get it. He didn't understand that thing. Plus, he had 5 kids. He wasn't going to, so he doesn't want to do that. Whereas I'm thinking, well, I would have liked to have given it a deeper shot, early on like that. And I would totally be supportive to try it, whatever. But she was like, that's not very practical. I think I need to figure out a way to do my own thing, which is great. And she lives out on her own, and she bought her own brand new car last summer, and telling me how much money she has in the bank. And I'm like, wait, what? I paid for college. Why is that paying for college? So,
so that was a loan, right?
Exactly. I'm like, wait a minute. But yeah, so that's great. But she's also got this outlet where she's doing these videos, and she works at a cool TV station and all this kind of stuff. So it's working well for her, but she's not done by any means. I know from a personality standpoint, she's ready to conquer the world, but her confidence is far beyond, at the age that she was at. I said to her, I'm pretty sure I was in my 30s before I started to have that confidence.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's like they you've already made a lot of the mistakes, and so she just watches and goes, I'm just gonna, I was gonna take all the good stuff, and that's usually what happens. Her kids will take all the good stuff, and it'll be that.
I hope it doesn't skip a generation, because that happens too. My father couldn't cook. He couldn't cook anything. My grandfather was a chef, but I know how to cook. And I said, it skips a generation. My father's colorblind, but I'm not. It skips a generation.
Yeah. That's just a weird thing. Man, oh man.
Yeah.
So my
genetics
friends...
is funny.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, genetics is strange, but, it's fun. It's a fun ride, but it's great talking to you again. It's been a while. It's been a minute or two.
Yes, indeed. So, and I know, because it was really weird, because before we wrap up, I want to tease you about your hair for a minute.
Yeah. You used to have dreads, man.
Yeah, I did have dreads. And the funny thing is, I still have a full head of hair, but I shaved my head because the dreads were a pain in the ass. I mean, they were real pain. I mean, they people liked them, but it's just like, good Lord, it's like your head's 900 degrees. It's going all the way down my back. I go to sleep, and I'm not even kidding. I would turn my head in the middle of sleep, and it was like somebody was pulling my hair. I was like, nah, I can't do it anymore, you know. But I don't have the romance novel hair that you got right now, buddy. I saw your name on Facebook. I said, "Oh, that's my old friend Bobby Z." Let me click on there. I said, who's this? Yeah. I was like, "Why are you putting up a fake picture on your Facebook?" Because you had the full beard and the romance novel hair, and I'm going, "The hell's going on here?" You know.
You know what? I'm now the most interesting comedian in the world.
So for those of you listening to this, the thumbnail for this episode will have a picture of Fabio over here.
That's great.
We have a picture of me and Fabio here for this episode. So Bobby, man, first of all, thanks for coming on the show. That's the first thing. And like I said, we hadn't seen each other in a while. It was good talking to you, man.
Yeah, great talking to you. Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to see you in person someday. And someday we'll get all vaccinated up, and it'll be great.
Oh yeah, I can't. I'm waiting to get. It's like being healthy is normally a good thing, but now it's like, yeah, you get your healthy ass at the back of that line. We're not giving you a damn thing until we stick everybody else down. I'm like, I feel my knee's hurting. Nice try, pal.
Yeah,
we saw you bang your knee into the table 5 minutes ago. You're not fooling anybody, damn it. We have it on the security camera, damn it. Now get out of here. We'll give you one. We got 2 of them left. Get out of here. But when the pandemic is over, first of all, as soon as I get my they jam in the arm a couple times, because I want to get back up on stage and tell jokes to drunk people like the old days, like a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right, my brother. Thank you for coming on, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, audience, for listening, and be sure to like and share and do all those good things.
All right. Take care, my brother.
Bye-bye.
All right. Now, did I tell you or did I tell you? Huh? That was fun, wasn't it? Well, it's going to continue because I've got, like I said, a whole bunch of really cool people lined up. You enjoyed that one, you're going to enjoy the rest. And thank you very, very much for listening to the show. Remember, rate and review this show. Suggest this show to friends and subscribe. You dig? See you next time. Take care.